Hi everyone, welcome to the Brainfuse webinar recording for our Help Now service. Help Now is our academic tutoring service. This is the main page right here that we're looking at for Help Now. So basically today we're going to go through all the different services that your students or patrons will be able to access through this particular service. So they'll get to this page right here from our link that can be posted in a number of different locations. Usually it's posted on a website, either the school or the library's website. They'll click on that link and the student will be able to access this page right here. So again, the point of today's webinar will be to go through all the different services that are offered here within the Help Now service. Basically, all of the options we see here on this page, all these different buttons down here in Expert Help, Study, and Collaborate, these are all options that are specific for students. So up through 12th grade, even first or second year college level, we'd be happy to help with those subjects. For any adult learners, they would be able to get help by clicking on the yellow Adult Learners button up here at the top. We'll cover that area later, but we're going to start here on the main page. So starting with the Expert Help section right here, we have a number of different buttons you can click on. The first two are sort of our foundational services. So these are two options that will let you connect with our live tutors. The difference between these two options is that the Live Help button on the left is usually used by a student who has a specific question they'd like to ask a tutor, and Skills Building on the right is for a student who has a general topic or skill that they need some additional help with. So if I start with the Live Help button here, to connect with a live tutor, all I need to do is enter a grade level and then a subject, and I can connect with a live tutor. For the lower grade levels, you'll just see a few basic subject options, and then if you go up to a higher grade level, like 12th, you'll see a lot of additional and higher level subjects available here. So you just choose the one you'd like. You can click on this checkbox here if you'd like to get a Spanish speaking tutor, and then click on the Get Live Help button. So we'll come back at the very end of the webinar today to look at a live session and see how that works. But first we're going to go through all of the different services that are offered. If we go back to the home page, now I'll click on the Skills Building button. So this page looks very similar to the Live Help one that we just saw. So here again, you're connecting with one of our live tutors, but you're connecting to work on a general topic or skill that you need help with. So here, again, I just choose a grade level, and then a subject, and then there's one more drop-down menu here on this page where I can choose a specific skill. So for 8th grade math, I have all of these different skills available here. So you can scroll through and find the one that you'd like to work on. If you can't find the one you're looking for, you can just choose any of these skills here and then tell the tutor manually in the live session what it is you'd like to work on. But the reason we have these skills here is that we have a lesson that goes along with each of these. So if you choose one of these skills, our tutor can then quickly load the lesson on that topic that we have already created and then work through that with the student. And again, you can click here if you'd like a Spanish speaking tutor. Back on the main page here, the Writing Lab button is the next one available. So for the first two options that we looked at, Live Help and Skills Building, you can access those services as soon as you log in. The student will not need a username and password. But we do have certain parts of our service where a username and password will be needed. And that's usually when any information is being exchanged between the student and Brainfuse, or anything needs to be stored. So the Writing Lab is the first service where you'll need a username and password. And that's because in the Writing Lab, the student is able to send in a document to us, so an essay, a paper, anything like that. One of our writing tutors will review that, provide some feedback, and then send that back to the student. So that's all done through the username and password that the student creates. Those are the only two things you need to give us when you create the account, the username and password, and those can be whatever the student would like. So you do not need to provide any personal information, no name, no email account, nothing like that, just a username and password. And our system will always prompt you for that when you try to access a part of our service where you need the username and password. So if you click on the Writing Lab and you're not signed in, it'll take you to a page that asks you either to sign in or create an account. I'm already signed in, so if I click on the Writing Lab button, it'll take me right to the Writing Lab page here. So again, the student just follows the instructions here to send in a document, and then our tutor will provide a review of ways to improve the writing ways to improve that document. The tutor is not going to make all the changes for the student. We're not an editing service. We're just here to give them some feedback that the student can then take into consideration and go back and make changes and updates to their paper. So to send in a document, you just follow the steps right here. So let's click on Browse, and we'll attach a file that I have here. So pretty much any standard document type can be sent in to us. Then you have a comments box where you can type out any notes you'd like to make for the tutor who will review that paper. So you could type out what the assignment was or what specifically you're looking for help with. And then when you're ready, just click on the Submit button. And you receive this message right here, which directs you to your message center. So the message center is located right here. These learning account features on the right, these are all specific to your account. So when you have your username and password, these options here will all store information specific to your account. So we'll get to each of these as we go through the webinar. But the message center right here, this is where any documents or questions you send in will be saved. So right here is what we just sent in. When the tutor sends back their response, it'll show up right here as well. So I have a sample right here of a review document. So this is a sample of what it'll look like when we send back our review. So we'll always include our rubric form on the top here, which has a number of parts where the tutor will have to fill in comments specific to that student's paper. So there's a number of sections there. And then if you scroll down further, you'll find the actual student's paper that they sent in. And the tutor will also embed comments within the paper itself. So these comments here in the blue bold text are from our tutor. So that's what a reviewed paper will look like. If we go back to the home page now, next to the writing lab, we have what we call Send Question. So this button here works exactly the same way as the writing lab, except it's to send in any academic questions that a student has. So you click on the button. You'll need a username and password again to access this part of the service. You just enter a grade level and a subject, and you type out your question in the box here. You can also attach a file in number 3 if you have one, and then submit that to us. So that'll be saved in the message center here, just like the writing lab documents, and that's also where the tutor's response will show up. Just like we don't do actual editing, we're not an editing service with the writing lab, here in the Send Question button, we're never going to just give out an answer to a student's problem. So we'll either work through a similar problem, give them some hints, something like that where we provide help to the student without actually doing the problem and giving them the answer. Our turnaround time for both questions sent in through the Send Question button and documents sent in through the writing lab is 1 business day from when the student sends that in to us. Sometimes we'll respond much more quickly than that, but the max turnaround time is 1 business day. And again, both of the responses for questions sent in and writing lab documents sent in will both be saved in the message center here on the right-hand side of the page. The next button available here is the language lab. So this is where a student will go if they're looking to learn the Spanish language. Spanish is currently the only language we offer help with. So you'll see it's the only option in the drop-down menu here. So you can choose Spanish, click on Get Live Help, and connect with a live tutor who can help you with learning Spanish. Okay, so those are the options available here in the Expert Help section. So I'm going to move down the page now to the Study section. And the first button we have here is the Test Center. So the Test Center lets a student take an academic practice test in a number of different subjects. It's another part of our service where you'll need a username and password. So if I click on the Test Center button here, I can choose on the left-hand side from grade levels up through 12th grade or even college here. Like I said, we have first and second year college help available. So you just choose the grade level you'd like and then a subject test, and you can take a practice test in that subject. On the right-hand side here, we also have ACT and SAT tests available. So if, for example, I choose ACT Math, and then I click on the Take a Test button, that will assign me ACT Math Quiz 1 right here. So I can click on the name of that quiz if I want to open it up and take that one. This page that we're looking at right here is called your My Tests page. So you can always click on the My Tests button over here on the right-hand side of the page to get here. So your test results will be saved here, plus any quizzes you've requested but have not yet taken. So here's a quiz that's been taken. It'll show the score. You can retake that test. You can also open it up here to look through the questions and see which ones you answered incorrectly. If you want to take, say, a different ACT English quiz, after you've taken this one here, you just go back to the General Test Center page, request ACT English again, and if you've already taken quiz 1, the system will assign you quiz 2. A lot of students like to take our practice quizzes here and then log in with one of our live tutors. Our tutors are able to access each student's test results so they can go over the questions the student answered incorrectly in a live session. So it's a great way for the student to practice. Back on the home page here, next to the test center, we have what we call Learn Now. Basically, Learn Now allows a student to browse through all of the content that we've created without actually connecting with a live tutor. So the student can access our lessons. We also have video lessons available here, and you sort of learn on their own. So you click on Learn Now to access the service. Then you choose from the options available here at the top. So let's say I'm a high school student. I can choose high school. Maybe I'm in an Algebra 1 class. I can choose Algebra 1 here. You'll see there are a number of other subjects available. So you can scroll down, and there's history and science subjects, writing, reading, and math as well. So let's say I choose Algebra 1, and then properties of real numbers. These are all Algebra 1 subtopics available here. So then within properties of real numbers, we have all of these different lessons and also video lessons. So the ones labeled as videos are videos that we've recorded with audio, and they'll go over that topic. The ones labeled as lessons are text lessons, sort of like those found in a textbook. So the student can access all of these, all of this content that we have available here. If we go back to the home page, the next button available here in the study section is Flashbulb. Flashbulb is basically an online flashcard service, so students can enter their own flashcards online, and then you have a lot of options that will help with memorizing, many additional options that you wouldn't have if you just create hard copies of flashcards. So if I click on that button here, I can click on the Create Now button here on the left to enter my own words and definitions. You can also access sets of flashcards that have already been created. You just click on any of the topics that are available over here. So I'm going to click on one of those sets just to quickly show you what a set of flashcards looks like. So I'll just choose one of the sets available here. This page shows one set of flashcards. So if you enter your own set, you'll have a page that looks just like this, and you can click on each of these different icons down here to do something different with the cards. You can just look through the flashcards using the first button here. Then there's a number of games and study tools that are available here. For example, the crossword puzzle. We'll create a crossword puzzle using the words that you entered with the definitions as the clues. There's a number of other games here as well. You can take a quiz or a test, print the cards out if you want hard copies of them. So there's just a lot of options here that are all designed to make memorizing a little bit easier for students. Here we are back on the main page again. So those were the three options available in the study section. Now if we scroll down to the very bottom, we have the Collaborate section and two options here. The first one we call Meet. So essentially Meet allows you to schedule an online meeting with whoever you'd like to invite to the session. So it uses our online classroom, just like when you connect with one of our live tutors, except that in a Meet session here, you're not connecting with any of our tutors. You're only connecting with the people that you invite to that session. So it might be used by a student to host a study group, or it could be used by a tutor or a teacher to give some extra help to students outside of the classroom. So to set up one of these Meet sessions, just click on the button here. Then you type in the email addresses of the people you'd like to invite, put in the date and time, a brief description of the meeting, and then click on Send. So that will send an invite to everybody whose email address you entered. That invite will contain a link they can click on to join this session. Only the person scheduling the meeting here will need a Brainfuse username and password. Everybody you invite will simply be able to click on the link and join that session. Once you have one of these meet sessions scheduled, you have the calendar option here on the right side of the page. So this is where any scheduled sessions would show up. Right here is one that I scheduled earlier. So we'll come back and look at this here at the very end. I want to go over a regular live session with one of our tutors first, and then we'll look at this meet session here, and I'll highlight the few differences there are between a meet session and a regular live session with one of our tutors. Back here on the main page, next to Meet, we have what we call Brainwave. So essentially Brainwave gives you a smartboard and lets you create a recording of whatever you're putting on that smartboard. So a good example of what you might use it for is to show how to solve a multi-step math problem. This could be done either by a student or again by a teacher or a tutor. So they'll create a nice little recording of how to go through each step to solve a problem. Then they'll have that available here, and they can actually be sent to other people. So the easiest way to explain Brainwave is just to create a new one. So I'll click on the button right here. This window tells me a little bit more about the Brainwave tool, and then I can click on the Begin Recording button down here to start. So we call this the Brainwave Notepad. It looks very similar to the online classroom that we'll see in a few minutes. So basically right now, the system is recording this window. I can use all these different buttons over here to put different items on the board. For example, I might choose the graph option here, click and drag a graph onto the board, and maybe I'm solving a problem that asks me to find the slope of a line. So I can use our Shapes tool right here to put a line on the graph, and then I can go through all the steps of finding the slope of that line. So again, I could go through all the steps here. You can use different colors to color coordinate. You can draw on the board. There's a lot of options available over here on the left-hand side. I'll highlight more of these when we connect for the live session. You can also type anything you'd like down here in the chat box, and that will also be recorded. And then when you're finished, you just click on the Stop Recording button down here at the bottom of the page. So then it'll ask you to give that Brainwave a name. So let's call it Slope Demo, and then I just click on Save. So that'll save this Brainwave right here on the main page. On the main Brainwave page. So you can always access this recording here by clicking on the Brainwaves link that you see over here on the right-hand side. So again, to create these Brainwaves, you'll need a username and password so that they can be stored in your account. So if I want to send this recording to somebody else, I can just click on the envelope icon right here and type in an email address, and that will let me send that Brainwave recording to somebody else. Again, it'll be sent just as a link in an email, so they'll be able to click on the link and view that recording. You can also access our Brainwave library, so this lets you search by keyword for Brainwaves that other people have created. The Brainwaves available here, along with the flashcards that you can search through, most of them are just created by other students, so they may not be accurate, but we just have them there as a resource that students can use if they'd like to. So if we go back to the home page here, those are all the buttons available here on the main part of the Help Now page. Up here at the top, we have the button I mentioned before, which is our Adult Learners button. So for any adult learners, they would click on this button here to get help. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And we'll go through the Adult Learning Center here. So this would be used by any adults who are looking for academic tutoring, for any reason, whether they're going back to school and taking classes, preparing for any sorts of tests or certifications, or just looking to brush up on academic skills for any reason. They can get that help here. Under the lifelong learning heading on the right-hand side of the page, we basically have 5 of the exact same services that we just saw back on the main page. They're just geared towards adults here. So we have live tutoring and skill splitting, where adult learners can connect with live academic tutors. We have the writing lab, where an adult learner can send in a piece of writing to have it reviewed. We have the test center, where they can take an academic practice test, and 24/7 help, where they can send in a question any time of day. So these services here all work the same as a few of the services that we saw back on the main Help Now page. They're just geared towards adults here in the Adult Learning Center. But then on the left, we have some additional options. So if anyone is preparing to take the GED test, we have a Pass the GED button right here. So if I click on that, we have a few different options to help with preparation for the GED test. We have study materials under number 1 on the left. Then we have live tutors available under number 2 in the middle. So you just choose one of the 5 sections of the GED test and click on Live Online Tutors to connect. And then on the right, we have practice tests available. If we go back to the home page for the Adult Learning Center, right below the GED button, we have Prepare for the U.S. Citizenship Test. So here we have the same options as we did for the GED. So we have study materials, live tutors, and practice tests, all for the U.S. Citizenship Test. Then the next button here is Write a Winning Resume. So if you happen to have any adult learners who are looking for a job, we have a couple options here that might be able to help them. So we have our resume button first. So here for resumes, we have some online resources available. Then we have an Upload Resume button here. This works exactly the same way as the Writing Lab that we saw previously. So this is where you could send in a piece of writing for review. Here you can do the exact same thing with your resume. We call it the Resume Lab. You can also send in cover letters here. And one of our resume tutors will review that and send it back to you with suggestions to help you improve both the formatting and the content of the resume. And then next to the Upload Resume button, we also have Live Resume Help. So you can connect with one of our resume tutors in a live session. And then going along with the Resume button here, down at the bottom we also have a Career Resources option. So these are some links to different websites that can be used to find available jobs to apply to. So we have a Nationwide Resources option here. These are national job search websites. We have a section for general job sites, one for students and recent graduates, and also one for veterans. And then below the Nationwide option, we also have a Local Resources for Job Seekers link. So these are resources that are specific to your area and state. So we'll customize these for you, but if you have any additional ones that you'd like us to add or to remove any of the ones that we've added here, we can definitely do that for you. And then the one button here that I skipped over was for Microsoft Office help. So here we offer help with Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint up to the most recent versions of those programs. On the left we have online resources, including some free tutorials. And then on the right, you can connect to a live tutor and ask any questions you have about Excel, PowerPoint, or Word. Those are all the options available here in the Adult Learning Center. So let's go back to the home page where we began. So those are essentially all the different options available here within the Help Now service. On the right-hand side, in the Learning Account features, there's a couple options here that I don't think we've touched on yet. The My Account section will just show you your username and password in case you've forgotten it. View Past Sessions essentially creates a recording of all of the live tutoring sessions you've had and then saves them here. This only works if you have a username and password. If you remember, I mentioned that you don't actually need one for these first 2 buttons here or for any time you're connecting with a live tutor in our service. The system will give you a guest account and allow you to connect, but you need a username and password if you want the sessions to be recorded and saved here. I'll mention that again when we connect for the live sessions. The Message Center we already looked at. My Tests we looked at. It's where all your test results are saved. The Calendar is where any Meet sessions you schedule will be saved. Brainwaves we looked at. Any brainwaves you create will be stored here. And then down at the bottom we have My Cloud Pack, which we haven't looked at yet. This is basically a storage device. So when you open it up for the first time, there won't be anything saved here, but I can add any folders that I'd like here. So let's say I add one for English papers. Maybe I want to add another one for math class notes. So you can call these folders whatever you'd like, and then you can upload documents here into these folders, and they'll be stored here. So when you log back in, days later, weeks, months later, your documents will still be stored here. You can also create documents directly within CloudPack. If you just click on the Add button, you can either upload a document or create one. But the really nice thing about CloudPack is that you can access all the documents you have stored there when you're connected in a live session and share them with a tutor that you're connected with. So again, that's something else that I'll mention again when we connect for the live session, which I'm pretty much going to do right now. So those are all the options we have here within Help Now. So now I just want to show you what a live session looks like. So we've looked at a number of different areas where you can connect with our live tutors, but probably the most used option is the first one that we looked at, the Live Help button right here. So if I click on Live Help, I then just have to enter a grade level and a subject. So let's say I choose 8th grade and writing, and then I can click on the Get Live Help button right here to connect with a tutor. So this is our online classroom here. This will always look the same no matter what subject you choose. So you always see this window here. It looks very similar to the Brainwave option that we saw before, where you could create those recordings. So the options you have here along the left-hand side are pretty much the same. So there's really two parts to the online classroom. There's the whiteboard space here at the top, and you can put different things on the whiteboard using these buttons available here. I'll get to that in a minute. And we also have the chat box down here at the bottom. So for this particular session today, I've just connected with myself, so we don't actually have another tutor here. But normally, the session would begin with a greeting from the tutor, and then if I want to type something back to the tutor as the student, I just click right down here, and I can type out whatever I like. So that's where most of the back and forth communication will occur. The audio option will always be deactivated when you're connected with our tutors, so everything will be done through the chat box and through the whiteboard. However, the audio option will be available if you connect in a Meet session. So one of those sessions with whoever you'd like to invite. In those sessions, you will be able to use audio. So the whiteboard space up here can be used for a lot of different things. If I log in looking for general help on a topic, the tutor might load our lesson on that topic right here onto the whiteboard, and then they could work through that lesson with the student. So we have lessons on all standard topics. We also have a lot of other resources that our tutors can use. You know, if you log in for a resume session or for help on your cover letter, we have sample resumes and cover letters, templates that a student might use or a patron might use. So our tutors have a lot of different resources and materials that they can access to help the student. Of course, a lot of the time, though, the student might just have a paper they're working on. They might copy and paste part of their paper here, or they might just have a math problem or a chemistry problem, something like that that they need help with. So the student could type out the question here on the board, and then the tutor would help them work through that problem. So the way you would do that is using all the different buttons here along the left-hand side. So if you put your mouse over each one, you'll get a brief description of what that button does. So most of them are pretty self-explanatory. So anything that's put on the board will be visible to both the tutor and the student. So we're essentially working on the same whiteboard here. The ABC button will let you click anywhere on the board and then type. You can change the font. You can change the color that you're typing in or drawing in. This button here is for copying and pasting. So this is very useful. If a student has a paper they're working on, they might copy and paste the introduction right here onto this window here into our online classroom, and then the tutor will be able to see that, and the tutor and student could work through that part of their writing. We also have a couple other options for sharing a document with your tutor, which I'll get to in a minute. I'm not going to go through all the rest of these options. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory, but they're all great, especially for math problems or chemistry problems, things like that. They allow you to put equations, shapes, figures, things like that onto the whiteboard. Up here at the top, we have a number of different options that are also available to students. We have the print button right here. So if you go over something that's very helpful here on the whiteboard, you can use the print button to print this window out. But you don't need to do that because you also have the View Past Sessions option right here that I mentioned before. So as long as you have a username and password and you're signed in, your sessions will automatically be recorded and saved right here. So you don't need to do anything, they'll just be recorded and saved for you. So you can log back in at any point in the future and re-watch one of your past tutoring sessions. You can also turn the files that are saved here into a brainwave file, and then that'll be saved with your brainwaves. And you'll remember with brainwaves, you're actually able to email those to people, so you could email a session recording to somebody else. If you do log in using a guest account, though, and say you have a very successful session, you do have an option for getting access to that recording. You just click on the envelope icon right here, type in your email address, and that will email a link to you that you can click on to view the session recording. So you'll just click on this button right here, right before you sign out of the session at the end. So you'll still be able to get that recording. This button can also be used by a registered user, and then they'll have access to the link in their email rather than having to sign into their Brainfuse account to get to it. This button right here says Send File. So this lets you upload a document directly to the tutor that you're connected with. So if you log in for a writing session, as we did here today, you can use this button to upload a file that you're working on to the tutor. So any standard document type can be sent, and then the tutor will be able to look at your work and give you some feedback. You can also use the copy and paste option, but again, that's better for smaller amounts of text, maybe for one paragraph at a time. But if you want to send an entire paper, the Send File button here is good for that. And then the last button here on the right is our CloudPak Explorer. So CloudPak was the storage device that we saw back on the website. Any documents you've uploaded into your CloudPak, you can then access those here using the Explorer, and you can essentially upload those right onto the whiteboard here. So that's just another way you can share information with your tutor. So that's essentially how a regular live session here works. So now the last thing that I want to do is show you what a Meet session looks like. So a Meet was the session that you could schedule using this button down here in the Collaborate section. So you click on that, you enter the email addresses of the people you'd like to invite to that session, the date and the time, and then you send that invite to them. So I have one scheduled already. I click on my calendar here. This is one that I scheduled earlier. I can start that session by clicking on the Enter button right here. So you'll see the window that opens up here looks very similar to the one that we just saw. Really the only difference is there's some additional buttons here at the top of the page, but most of those are grayed out and won't even be used. So really the window here is the same as the one that we just saw when you're connected with one of our live tutors. However, there are a few small differences between a live session with our tutors and a Meet session here. One I already mentioned is the audio option. So audio will be available here in a Meet session, but it will not be available when you're connected with our tutors. So you can use audio to speak back and forth, to the other students in this session, or again, it might be a tutor or a teacher running this session and giving some help to their students. So audio would be able to be used here. So anything put on the whiteboard or in the chat box, that would be visible to everybody who's connected in the session. So again, it's not going to just be necessarily, 2 people. You could have any number of people connected in a Meet session here. So you might have 5 students signed in, hosting a study group, something like that. They'd all show up here in the participants box. They'd all be able to type on the board, type in the chat box, and see what everyone else is putting there on the board or in the chat box. One other main difference between a Meet session and a regular session here is that if the session is being run by a tutor or a teacher, someone who's teaching the other participants, they'll have the option of clicking on each participant's name down here and giving that student a private whiteboard. So what that means is that up here next to the Public tab, you'll have additional tabs, one for each student that you give a private whiteboard to, and then anything put on that private whiteboard would only be visible to that one student and to the moderator of the session. So the moderator would be the person who scheduled the session here. So that's a way that you can give extra help, to one student or to multiple students who happen to be struggling more than the other students in the session. So it's a good teaching tool. Other than those features, though, the Meet session here will essentially work the same way as a regular live tutoring session that we just saw. Okay, so that's essentially all of the options that we have available here in the Help Now service. So we went over the options for adult learners as well as all the options available here for students. If you have any questions, or if your students or patrons have any questions once they start using the service, they can feel free to contact us anytime. The best way to contact us is by email at info@brainfuse.com, which we check constantly. Okay, thanks everyone for watching. I hope it was helpful.